Nathan Stanford Sr., and we're going to try to start building a new application. And I'm going to try, and I say try because I usually, when I'm building a new application, I usually have in mind most of what the application is going to look like. Now, if I'm at work, I will talk to the client, find out different information from them, figure out what all they want. But since when you're practicing on an application at home and you're working on learning how to develop and build code, it's okay sometimes to not plan because you are learning and you are also the client because you're building the application for yourself. So let's actually see how far I can get along in the planning before I start building. And now I may not do as many steps as some places may want you to build as far as the planning goes, but let's just go from here and see. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start a Word document, which is not the way I normally start, like I said. Go here to design, kind of look at all these. I kind of like that one. I'm going to start with that one. And then we will go back to home, and I'm going to say the new application that we're going to try to build is going to be a quiz, survey, oh good grief, survey application. Okay, so I need to change that to a title. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have multiple steps. So let's start by step 1 will be to define the problem and goal. We want this to look nice because you're going to normally be talking to that's odd. It's changing the color. Probably because I got it in dark mode. That's fine. I'm not going to worry about that. So now that we're out of that, let's see. What other steps? Identify the target audience. So let's see. Step 2. Identify the target audience. Step 3, let's see, determine, let's see here, we want to determine the features and functionality. Yeah, that's right. Spelled it good. And step 4, we will go define the technical requirements like Cold Fusion or PHP, internal web server, front-end framework, Vue, React, Angular, HTMX, whatever we want as far as the requirements go and how we're going to build it. Now, in this concept, step 5, we can create a wireframe and user flow. Now, when you're creating a wireframe, one little tip right here at the beginning before I even get any further, you've got to be careful to make your wireframe look like a wireframe, because if a customer sees the website and it's a wireframe that looks like it's the website and it's finished, they're like, oh, right, let us start using and testing it. It's not done yet. So either show them something that is not going to make them think that. So step 6, we want to plan the data model and storage, because the first thing you need to know is how your database is going to be. When you're building a house, you need the foundation. You need to know, is it going to be a 1-story? Is it going to be a 2-story? Is it going to be a 5-story? Is it going to be an apartment building? Is it going to be a skyscraper? All of those are going to be different for database. The database is like the foundation, and if you don't have the foundation right, you can build the site, but you're going to have trouble. So 7 we're going to, now some of this, since you're building it for yourself, we may end up skipping over the resources and timeline. When you're dealing with a customer, you're guaranteed whatever you build, they're going to forget some things and you're going to have to make changes. So the timeline needs to have some of that built in, and you also need to realize that it's more of a guesstimate than it is an actual timeline, in my opinion. So step 8, plan the testing and quality assurance. I'm not had to do that as much. I do it on my own, but I do agree it's a great thing. So I'll go as far as I can with that before I say I'm going to move on to just building it, or maybe I'll be able to come up with some things helping you that will help me. That's part of my plan doing these videos. They're going to help you, but they're going to help me as well, because the best way you can learn is to do. The second best way you can really learn is to teach someone else. If you go and you read all the books you want on driving a car, watch the videos on driving a car, watch someone else drive a car, until you get behind the wheel and start driving the car, you don't have a clue of what to do or how to do it. Once you're behind the wheel and you start driving in a safe place like a parking lot, it gives you some feel for how things are going, and you can start learning a little bit. And some of the stuff you've been told or learned about driving start to now apply to your driving. Same thing with web development. You need to plan things, and then you need to try them out. And if you don't try them out, you don't build them out, then you'll run into problems. You have to decide for this, what are the plans for when we deploy it? Where is it going to go? How's it going to go? Maintenance. Now, all of these steps don't have to be done for your local development for yourself. However, it's a good idea to kind of understand all of these steps. Once we've deployed it, then it's going to be in maintenance mode. One thing I like to say about maintenance mode, you got to understand that in maintenance, that most applications stay in maintenance mode 70 to 80% of their lifespan. I don't have an exact number because that's different for each company, but you know what I mean when you're working for a company. Well, once you start working for a company, if you're just learning, you're not working yet, you'll learn. They'll say, well, we need to replace this app. It's been there for years. So it's probably even 80, 90%, because what happens is they build it, and then from then on, the customer says, oh, can you add this little thing? Can you add that little thing? And to me, I always use the analogy. It's kind of like you go fishing, you're fishing, and you get your wire tangled up. If you untangle it right then, it's not a big deal. But if it gets too tangled up in just a big wad, it's easier just to cut it or replace the whole line and start a new whole line. So understand that that is the case, that you want to make sure that you're building something that, you're trying to, you're going to end up being in maintenance mode. So the whole time you're building a website, a web application, this is not just a website. These are applications that do things. You're going to need to be able to maintenance them. So when they say, can you add this little feature? You want to have planned your application in such a way that you can add to your application without causing too many issues. So here we've got our steps. What I'm going to do for now is let's just look at this first step. So what we want to do now is we want to identify the problem. Maybe this quiz and survey is for a teacher who's wanting to take quizzes and surveys. Maybe this is for a company on an intranet where they want to see how the employees are liking their job and all the problems they're running into, or maybe it's just a straight up survey, or maybe you're building it so that they can use it like SurveyMonkey, where they can get other people to pay to use the application. So first we want to identify the problem, and we want to define a goal. If you set up anything in your life, you set up some goals, if you can't measure those goals, and if they're not realistic, so if I say I'm going to become fluent in Spanish tomorrow, if I've never taken Spanish in my life, there's no way for me to become fluent in one day. It's just basically impossible. That, when you fail, you're not unhappy. If I say I'm going to learn Spanish and it's going to take me 5 years, well, you know that you're probably going to give up long before the 5 years, so you've already planned kind of to fail. So you've got to try to put it in some kind of reasonable terms. So let's just start with these two things. First thing we want to see is, what's the purpose? Is it for education, entertain somebody, or gather feedback? Now, I'm going to choose education. What I want it to do is to be a way for me, once this quiz is done, for it to ask me questions like, in Cold Fusion, what is it that's used when you're setting a variable to be a new array or a new structure? One or the other. And I want to ask that question, and then I want to have a list A through E. Probably multiple choice will be most of the time, but I may even make this two kind of quizzes, one that's like that and one that's flashcards. So I'm actually going to add, what I'm trying to do is, let's see here, let me just type that in. What is the purpose of the quiz survey application? And you can put in to educate, to entertain, to gather feedback, all the different things. What we're going to use it for is to educate. We want to have problems be asked. They can guess, or they know the answer. They can answer. And then we want to do some tracking of that. And I'm thinking we want it to be spaced repetition. If you don't know what that is, look that up. What it is, kind of in a nutshell, is I ask you a question. If you don't answer it correct, I put it back in a list of questions to give back to you. But let's say you answer it, that's great. And now it's going to be back in your list, but it's going to be, tomorrow's list, or maybe an hour later, or 2 hours later's list. So if you're answering several questions, you'll get it again. If you get it the second time you get it right, then it'll be another month before you see it again. So that's what I'm trying to do with that. So let's put here spaced, let's see, to educate and spaced repetition. Oh, good grief. Fine, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do that. So we're wanting it to educate. I guess since we only have, we could. Well, we want to educate, and we want to use spaced repetition. So really, it's educate, and then we just happen to be using spaced repetition as a part of the process of the application. So I guess that would be part of the goal, actually, as well. That's the purpose, but let's see here. For the goal, what do we want? What do we want to achieve with the application? We want to create, we want to create a fun quizzing process. What I mean by that is gamify. What do I mean by that? I mean, you'll get points for every time you answer and get it right. Maybe you'll have 10 hearts, and if you get it wrong, it'll take away a heart or half a heart, depending on how hard the question is. And so all of this goes into how you're going to build the application. So let's see, gamify, create fun process. By doing that, we'll gamify. And also this spaced repetition should probably go down here, because that's part of that process. We want to be able to help you memorize or really learn the knowledge that you're doing. Obviously, we want you to be able to recreate, ability to create your own applications, your own quiz or survey. Let's do this, quiz or survey or flash cards. So that's those that we want. Now, right now, who is the target? If we were building this application, let's just say we're building this application. Who is the target audience? Well, the target audience is going to be, for me, it's going to be me. So I'll just say it's for me, and if someone else is using it, I want students and professionals to be able to use it. Obviously, I could allow it to be open to the general public, but for right now, I want to limit it to students, professionals, and of course for yourself. So what are the needs? And we need to understand their needs. So we need to go here. Let's see, put this. So we're trying to understand the needs of the students. Here, let's do that. What are their needs, preferences? And this would be questions you would be asking of your client as to what they want. And what are the pain points? Maybe they've already got a survey application and there's certain things they don't like about it. There's certain things that they want replaced. Since this is going to be a brand new application, I don't have that, but you still want to keep that in your mind as questions to ask the client. So what are their technical skills and familiarity with online applications? So what we're meaning there is we want to know how much do we have to explain. And looking at this, I probably should have done this. Let's do target, audience, and then we will tab that over. So here we've got our target audience, and we've got their needs. So now we're going to have to start determining all the features. Now what I would suggest is you sit down and talk to your customer and say, let's just have a brainstorm, and you just simply throw out things that you might want. And then later you can say, okay, if we were to limit these down to just the few you have to have, what would they be? So a quiz, survey, creation and management. Of course, you need to have a way to create the surveys and to manage the surveys. Now, you will need user authentication and authorization. So in other words, you will need them to be able to log in. You'll need authorization where certain people will be able to create surveys. Some will only be able to take surveys. Maybe you'll say these 5 surveys are for the students and these 5 are for the people that are working. These 5 are, you want certain roles so that you can understand what's needed. So what type of questions do you want? So you want to say, what are the question types? Do you want multiple choice? Do you want true, false, open-ended? Now the problem with open-ended is we got to remember that they will have to be graded probably manually. So we've got open-ended, scoring. Do you want scoring and feedback? Also, user profiles and progress tracking and gamification. I'm adding that to the end there because that'll be part of the progress tracking as well as helping keep the people involved. Do we want it integrated with social media and other platforms? I don't really want that with this particular application, but if you're building it for a company, they may want, if it's for a company-wide quizzing system, they may want to be able to show on their intranet who's answered all these questions and filled out all these quizzes, or you may be building it externally where they want to be able to put it on their Facebook page. I finished all this. You could have that as something to build, but I'm not going to do that. So let's see here. What do we want next? So we're going to, you know what? One more thing I thought of. Prioritize features. What's most important first, second, third? And so you would have to ask the client based on importance and feasibility. So even though I want gamification, let's say I get far along and this YouTube series has grown and it's too big, it's going to be too long. I might cut out some of the gamification so that we can get finished. So let's see here. What else? Let's just try to get through most of these. So let's see here. I'll have to define the technical requirements. So let's see here. For this particular case, the front end is going to be HTML, CSS, JavaScript, HTMX. I'm going to put that on the front end because it's like JavaScript. And I'm not going to pick any frameworks or anything. I'm just going to try doing what I know. I guess the back end, even though some of the back end will still be kind of the front end, we're going to do PHP. We'll stop with that for now. We're not going to do a framework. I could, but we're not going to. So let's see here. I'm not going to, we could, let's see here. So let's see here, wireframe. Okay, so let's just type that in for now. And I will try to sketch something at some point, but let's first get through this. So we'll come back to there, plan the data model. Okay, so I'm going to stop here because what we need first to start building some kind of wireframe, some kind of user flows. And this video is step 1. And I'm going to stop and do these where I pick which, I'm going to, while I'm off camera, look at the different wireframe software that's free, because that changes it, and see if I can find one. Because if not, we'll even do something as simple as PowerPoint and draw kind of vaguely what we're trying to accomplish. And then we'll talk about the user flow as well. And we'll start working on these other steps till we get to step 9.